you here and being here. I'm really feeling grateful, for this moment. It's a good day to talk about Krishna. So, okay, let's get started. So we're continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 30. I have it here somewhere. I'll share the screen. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we have 3 verses today, text 29, 30, and 31. Let's see if we can start to understand what is happening for the gopis here and how this relates to us. Although just hearing about them is enough. It purifies in its own way just by hearing the pastimes of Krishna. So starting with text 29, I'll read them through and then we'll go through them. O girls, the dust of Govinda's lotus feet is so sacred that even Brahma, Shiva, and the goddess Rama take the dust upon their heads to dispel sinful reactions. Purport. According to Srila Vaishnava Chakravarti, who quotes from Shastra, each day in the late afternoon as Krishna returned from the cow pastures with his cowherd boyfriends, great demigods like Brahma and Shiva would come down from heaven and take the dust of his feet. Great personalities like the goddess Rama, the wife of Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma, are not at all sinful, but in the ecstasy of pure Krishna consciousness, they feel themselves fallen and impure. Thus desiring to purify themselves, they blissfully take the dust of the Lord's lotus feet on their heads. Text 30. These footprints of that special gopi greatly disturb us. Of all the gopis, she alone was taken away to a secluded place where she is enjoying the lips of Krishna. Look, we can't see her footprints over here. It's obvious that the grass and sprouts were hurting the tender soles of her feet, and so the lover lifted up his beloved. Text 31. Please observe, my dear gopis, how in this place lusty Krishna's footprints are pressed more deeply into the ground. Carrying the weight of his beloved must have been difficult for him. And over here, that intelligent boy must have put her down to gather some flowers. Purport. The word vadhum indicates that even though Sri Krishna was not officially married to Radharani, he had in fact made her his bride in the Vrindavan forest. According to Srila Vaishnava Chakravarti Thakur, the gopis use the word kaminaha here to indicate the following thoughts. We actually love Sri Krishna, but still he has rejected us. Therefore, his private dealings with Radharani prove that this young prince of Raja has carried her away because of lust. If he were interested in love, he would have accepted us instead of that cowherd girl Radharani. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Okay. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patita Nam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let's see if we can try to get into what's happening for the gopis here. So the previous verses, they've been looking for Krishna. Krishna has apparently left them. He's left their sights and they're looking for him. So what's happening here? What's being experienced? So they're looking at all the evidence. They're seeing footprints and deducing what must be happening with Krishna and who he's with and what kind of pastimes that they're having. But the gopis are disturbed. They're in anxiety. They're feeling grief. They're lost. They're mentally. They're experiencing the loss of Krishna. They're in confusion. So they're in this tragedy. But they're also it's if you read, when I was reading these descriptions, it's also a bit comedic. It's funny because they're playing out the role of Krishna, and they're talking to trees, they're talking to plants and flowers, and they're trying to find, where's Krishna? Where did he go? So there's a little bit of a humor in what's happening here and just the way that they're behaving. But they are actually in great distress. For them, Krishna is everything. So they're tormented by the separation, and they're madly searching for him everywhere. Can you just imagine what it's like? Probably their hair's messed up and their clothes are messed up, and they're just going here and there. They're a bit delirious, but it's all because Krishna has left their sight. And so in their desperation, they're absorbed in him, which is why they're acting this out. And then they're remembering, they're having all of these memories of him and what it's like to be with him. It's almost like they're obsessed, right? Which is like when you're obsessed with something, you're so preoccupied with it to the point that you're troubled. And this is exactly what's going on for them. They're feeling this grief and this anxiety. So what is this? How can we see this in the light of our own separation from Krishna, from our source, from our true selves? So we also experience grief and loss and anxiety and confusion, and we get disturbed and we get obsessed with things and we can't think clearly and we're looking for something. But how does this manifest for the jiva, for the soul in the material world? So the gopis are having this experience, but it's different for us. We're not so attached to Krishna. We're not so obsessed with him in this way, where they're experiencing this transcendental pastime. And for us, we get obsessed and attached to things that are more of a temporary nature. And it's not a transcendental pastime. It's just a pastime, and then insert adjectives for describing that pastime. So how does that play out for us? So we're seeking, just like they're seeking for Krishna and they're trying to find him. He's in the trees. Is he here? Maybe the tree knows. And is he there? Is he? But we also experience this type of seeking for pleasure, for our happiness. He's their happiness. They're looking for him. And we're here, we experience the seeking for happiness, but we think we're going to find it in everywhere else except for Krishna. We're just looking in the wrong places. And we get overly worried and concerned about life and death and everything in between. And I'm wondering if anyone else has any ideas of how this manifests for us, how this grief, this loss, this confusion can manifest for the soul, for the jiva in this world. If anyone has any thoughts about that, I'd be curious to know. Anxiety, yeah, we get anxious over things. Depression, yeah, things aren't quite right. Yeah. So we're equally experiencing these things. And sometimes if everything feels like a tragedy, sometimes we do experience real tragedy. And sometimes even within that tragedy, we can have a moment of like, wow, this is quite funny. Look at what's happening for me. I'm getting so disturbed and bewildered by the things of this world. But because it's not, if what we're experiencing is not connected to Krishna, then it's not of that same nature of what the gopis are experiencing. We may be experiencing those things with just things that are of the temporary nature. And it's inevitable because we're in the world that is of a temporary nature. So there's some similarities here. So what's causing their disturbance other than the fact that they can't see him? So it's described, Krishna has disappeared. He has disappeared because of our pride. They were prideful. They got puffed up, right? That's the phrase that we like to use. We get too puffed up. And he was there and now he's not. Now they're experiencing this great grief. And so he's supposed to be here and now he's not. And so now we're confused and we're going to go and look for him. And so if we can imagine what it feels like when you expect something to be there and it's not. I mean, we live with these expectations all day, every day. From the moment that we wake up, I'm expecting things to be in a certain order. I'm expecting my car to be in a driveway. I'm expecting my house to still be in one piece. Just imagine you wake up and it's gone, or something's gone. Something's just not right. And so we're always living in this expectations of things being where they're supposed to be. You expect your money to be where it's supposed to be, your keys, I thought they were here. And, I expect my pets to be where I think they're supposed to be, my clothes, everything's either in a vaguely determined place somewhere around here. I know I left them, or a very clearly defined place. Oh, I know that it was here and now it's not. And if something's not where it's supposed to be, we get mad, we get irritated. Or surprised at best, like, whoa, okay, I thought this was here and it's not, maybe a little bit bewildered. And so if you think of how it feels when something's supposed to be where something is supposed to be somewhere and it's not, but we experience that with the smallest things and the discomfort that brings up. Imagine for them losing Krishna. He's supposed to be here, now he's not. And for them, he's everything. He's their whole world. There's descriptions of gopis leaving their bodies because they just can't fathom the thought of not getting to Krishna, of not being able to be with him. So we can experience this with small things. Imagine when your everything is not where it's supposed to be. The source of all your love, your pleasure, your happiness, everything. So we can also experience great hurt when things or people are not where they're supposed to be. There's a lot of pain. And so imagine that a person is no longer where they're supposed to be. Either they leave our association or they leave their body. And so they die, basically. We don't like to say die because the reality is we don't actually die. So we're always somewhere, but we may leave the body. And so that's the discomfort that they're feeling, as just times a million. So imagine how it feels when we lose something or someone, and that's real, and that's what they're experiencing with Krishna. That's their pain in that moment. But it's for Krishna. And that's something that makes all the distinction, because Krishna, and it's implied here in the verses, or actually the way Srila Prabhupada described it in the 10th canto, not the 10th canto, in Krishna book. He's saying that perhaps, and he says this through the gopis, and I'm curious about where this comes from in the Shastra, but that Krishna, at least with Radharani, because he also left her, he's looking through the trees. He's just watching this whole thing play out. And so because he's everywhere, he's probably watching the gopis too. He's seeing what's happening. So they're actually never without Krishna. It just feels as if they're without Krishna. And so that's something really important to remember, because they're safe even in their grief and desperation, while they're playing out these pastimes that are exhibiting what they're actually feeling of wanting to find him everywhere. And perhaps if I play out his pastimes, then he'll be here. It's almost like trying to get closer and closer to him by remembering him, by playing out his pastimes, by pretending that they are him. And but he hasn't actually gone, and he is actually in those trees, in those plants that they're talking to, but also he's there somewhere just watching this whole thing happen. So that's their love. And they've given themselves over to him so much that their senses, their feelings, everything that they're experiencing is not about something like we experience, loss and grief and desperation and anxiety and fear and depression. All of this is for Krishna. It's attached to Krishna. It's in connection to Krishna, and that makes all the difference. So Krishna being the absolute infinite person, and their feelings and even their actions, right? Their functions, what they're doing right now is in relationship to Krishna. They're acting out his pastimes. When I get upset or I get angry or confused or fearful, what pastimes am I acting out? What am I remembering? You know, I may be behaving in ways that are very far from playing out Krishna's pastimes. And that's the difference between the conditioned soul and pure devotees like the gopis, that everything is in connection to him. And so because they've given over their senses, and Krishna is the master of all of the senses, Hrishikesh, I'm imagining he's probably feeling all of this. Their feelings are touching Krishna, their minds are touching Krishna, and he's feeling what they're feeling and thinking what they're feeling. And because they're coming in contact with the infinite absolute person, is it logical to think that they're also feeling that infinite, that infinity, that absoluteness, because they're in the rasa of love, of conjugal love, and it's the most intimate. And so they're tasting that infinity, that absoluteness, that personhood of Krishna. That's why this is a very intimate dealing. That these are all very intimate dealings with the gopis. It's not because it's not sexual. It has nothing to do with that, but it's very, very intimate. You don't get any more intimate than coming into contact with Krishna in that sense, and feeling him and tasting him. And then in that rasa of separation, in the rasa of love, what is greater? What can be greater? And so only the highest lovers of Krishna, of God, of the divine, understand this. And we see this throughout history, that people do understand this, and they feel this, and they experience this. And either we get it or we don't. But there's something, the reason I'm bringing up the reasons that we feel, or the things that we feel grief and anxiety and fear over, is because it's a little glimpse of what they're feeling. And so we're getting a glimpse, we're peeking through the window of what it's like for these pure devotees. So this is what's going on for them. So, but why did Krishna leave? Okay, he left them because he didn't appreciate their pride. He was just like, okay, you guys are puffed up in a moment. And with Radharani, it was the same thing. It was, you know, just feeling like, yeah, I know that I'm everything to you now. And in that moment, he just disappears. So Krishna has left them because of their pride, according to them. And in any relationship, when someone behaves in a way that you just don't appreciate, that's a boundary that you have this conversation of like, I don't really, this is how I feel about that. And perhaps, we can talk about it, or whatever it is. But Krishna has a boundary. If you come to Krishna with pride and thinking I'm the center of the universe, he doesn't like that. And so he's not angry. He's not leaving them to punish them. He's actually leaving, this is why it's a transcendental pastime, he's actually leaving them to increase their love and their affection for him. So he knows exactly what's going to happen, because it's heart makes the, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So it's sort of like that. So he understands. At the same time, is it that he's protecting them? Because if it could be, I don't know, is this I don't know if it's speculating because we're thinking about Krishna, but if they're being prideful and he sees, well, this pride actually is contrary to devotional service. And I'm going to just take a step back in this moment, because if I stay here and you continue to be proud, that's not good for you. So it's sort of like, think about a time when you've been in a disagreement with someone and you just say, you know what, you're really upset. I'm gonna walk away because you may say something that you don't want to say. That's protecting the other person. That's helping them not do something that's not going to that is not in their best interest, that is gonna have a negative effect for them. And so could it be that Krishna is also doing this in a way to protect them and just saying, this isn't good? Because it's almost like boundaries with children. Not the gopis aren't children per se, like that, but boundaries with children, where you say, you try to address some behavior because it's not good for the person to develop that kind of behavior and continue with that. And that is an expression of love. And so what happens is, it's not that the gopis are bad or have done something, they're not rascals and this kind of thing. It's just that there's a misunderstanding. There's a difference between what love is and what love does. And sometimes we can have this idea of what love is, that love is to benefit me. Love is to make me feel good. Love is to bring me pleasure. And that could be part of their pride, like Krishna's here for me. But what love actually, it's not what love is, it's what love does. What love does is that it gives, it surrenders, it offers devotional service. And when we make those mistakes, we can see there's some effects of that. So the degree to which we suffer is often the degree to which we try to enjoy what's not ours, what's not mine to enjoy. And this isn't true in every case and every time and every instance, but we can see that correlation. The degree to which I suffer is the degree to which I'm trying to enjoy what doesn't belong to me. And so the more that I try to own or control or take advantage of that which isn't mine to do so with, to that degree I'm going to suffer, because that's not what's meant to happen. And so that reminded me of Sri Upanishad. Let's see, we have it here somewhere. The first mantra in the Sri Upanishad says, everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only the things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing all well to whom they belong. And so what's for me is for me, what's not for me is not for me. And if I try to own or take or have an inappropriate relationship with these things, it's not going to lead to a good place. And so this is why, so again, it's really important, I think, to understand Krishna is not punishing anyone. He's just showing something, he's letting something come up, and so that it can be addressed. So now they see, oh, we got prideful and now he's left. Okay, so now what? And it's in separation that we remember what someone means to us. And it's important, it's also important to remember that, because the gopis can think, well, how was I behaving? We think about this sometimes, that in retrospect, once someone's no longer with us, well, how did I behave? Did I love as much as I could? Was I offering service? But the reality is Krishna's is everywhere, and he hasn't actually left. He's all pervasive. He's everywhere and in everything. He's in the natural world. He's in the jiva, in the heart of the living entity. He's in everything. But this is just the pastime of what's happening, and it's also in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, it says, "I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness." So all of this, the forgetfulness that Krishna is the center, the knowledge that I am not the center of the universe, all of this is coming from him. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So he is everywhere. He hasn't actually left him. Love never fails. And Krishna is known as Achyuta, infallible. So the gopis are safe in their grief and their anxiety and their loss and confusion because he also has affection for them. But he has the same affection for all of his parts and parcels. And so sometimes we feel absorbed in those feelings, but we don't feel it for Krishna. They feel it for Krishna. They're the greatest devotees. And the demigods, these verses started off with the demigods wanting to take the dust off Krishna's feet. But the lover of Krishna wants to take the dust of the gopis' feet. I mean, can you imagine? Like, even the demigods don't want that. Like, this is such a pastime. So it does say that Krishna changes his attitude towards them, but it's a pastime, and he doesn't hurt them. He doesn't actually ever leave them because they've had a moment of forgetfulness or misunderstanding, and it's actually increasing the rasa for them. And it's the same for us. He doesn't harm us. He's never going to leave us. Love doesn't hurt. It's unconditional. And so this is what was the understanding of Krishna watching Radharani from behind the trees, and perhaps watching the gopis. And I heard somewhere, I don't know where I heard this from, is love is pure attention to the existence of another. And in that moment, the gopis are in pure attention to the existence of Krishna. And Krishna, because he's Krishna, he's in pure attention of our existence, of every single one of us. And he's the only one that can do that. That's why he's the supreme person, because he can have pure attention and awareness of the existence of me and you and every single one here, and all the trees and the plants and the bugs and the living entities all around the world and all the universes. But all we can manage is, at least some attention to some of the people that we're affectionate towards. And this is our practice. This is our practice of being in constant awareness and attention of Krishna. And those people that we love, our loved ones, our friends, our sangha, they are a way for us to practice that. So going back to the Sri Upanishad, so it starts off, there's also, let's see, there is a translation to this first verse by, I don't know if I'll be able to find it. There was a translation to this verse from another Vaishnava in our lineage, which I can't find now, but basically it starts off with everything belongs to Krishna and everything is for Krishna to enjoy, not for us. But then towards the end of the Sri Upanishad in mantra 15, it says, "Oh my Lord, sustainer of all lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee." And so the gopis are basically, they're in this mood of like, I can't see you, where are you, please come here. And that's their mood in this moment. And so how do we maintain that? How do we shift our grief and our suffering and remember, okay, yes, this is happening, but ultimately what's really happening is that the jiva, the soul, is in that relationship with Krishna of, where are you? You're supposed to be here and you're not. Oh, I must have made a mistake. Please come back. And this is our practice. This is our whole Krishna consciousness practice, is this, I love you, I'm sorry, please come back. and then realizing, oh, you never left me, because that's just who you are. And so at the end of the Sri Upanishad, it says, oh, my Lord, as powerful as fire, oh, omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. Oh, my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions of my past sins, so that there will be no hindrance in my progress. And sins being the things that take us away from our source, our true selves, Krishna. So I think it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur who translates, maybe it wasn't, it was another, let's see, Devika, I think his name is Devika. Anyway, it's another Vaishnava. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but it translates, he translates the 18th mantra as, O leaders of all beings, performer of pastimes, you know everything. Lead us to knowledge through practices which yield enough wealth to maintain our bodies, destroy the obstacles which create crookedness in us. We offer respects to you, saying Namaha repeatedly. And so we have a way to do that. We have those practices. We have the Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra is the way for us to say, to remember that Krishna is right here, right now. It's a prayer. We can take it on as a prayer with a desire to know, to remember, to see, because back to the Bhagavad Gita, that remembrance will come from him. The function of forgetting comes from him, and our free will to forget comes from him. And so when we remember and we come to have knowledge of him again, that will also come from him. And so towards, I guess it will come maybe in the next few verses or several verses towards the end of this chapter, but at the end of this chapter, in this, their suffering and of their separation, the gopis, they don't have anything left to do but sit and chant his names. It's like, okay, where's Krishna? He's gone. Oh my God, I made a mistake. Where is he? I can't find him. We're just going to sit and chant. And so if that's what the gopis do, then perhaps we can do that too. Just sit and chant and try to remember. So our process is to develop the faith that chanting his names does bring him here, does bring him back, because it does so many things at the same time. It purifies that original mistake that we made, that original thing in our consciousness that led us to create the mistake of thinking, I'm the center, this is about me, you're here for me, you're here to love me and make me feel good and serve me and give me everything that I want. So okay, that's a mistake when it comes to Krishna. So the Maha Mantra purifies that, and then it also brings him into our consciousness, into our presence. Not brings him as if we're calling him, but it sets the conditions for which he actually wants to show up. And it's a process that we just have to keep trying. We just have to keep going, allowing the fire of the suffering that is coming up with our grief and our loss and our confusion and our bewilderment, allowing that to purify so that we come to the state of where never losing sight of Krishna and his sweetness. And so this is the potency of the Maha Mantra. But we're trying to develop that faith in that, or that realization that this is what this does. And Krishna never leaves his devotees. He never leaves anyone. Even when we forget that we are ultimately devotees and lovers of Krishna, he never leaves, because we can't be anything but. We can try to forget, we can go to the ends of the universes and try to hide somewhere and pretend that we're the proprietors and we're the leaders and everything's about me and woe is me. And do all of these things that are the complete opposite of being a devotee of Krishna. but he doesn't ever leave, because no one can ever stop being a lover of Krishna. That's what we are at our core, in our nature. And so we're safe, where there's this unconditional love that no matter what you do, I will love you and I will always be there for you. But we're just trying to change the dynamic of the relationship, and not in a forceful way. Again, not with that pride, but with the humility of remembering who we are, who he is, and how sweet it is to have Krishna with us, to have that relationship with us. There's a very big difference of knowing someone's there. I know all of my friends here, that you're all here, you're in another place, and I know you're there, you're existing somewhere, and I know that we have affection for each other. But there's a very big difference between you being over there on the other side of Zoom than being right here, right now with me. And so it's the same with Krishna. Yes, he's there, he's everywhere. There's nowhere that he isn't. But there's a very big difference between him being all out there than the realization of, oh, you're here with me right now. Okay, so those are just some thoughts about these verses. Let's chat. Adi Purusha Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful class, extraordinary topic. The intensity of the gopis' longing to be with Krishna. And you mentioned, how does this apply in our life? The feeling, this deep feeling and this longing. And the Mayavadis, there's an old song of, I am a rock, I am an island, and a rock feels no pain, and an island never cries, you know? That the Mayavadis just negate everything and become dull like a stone. But we do have deep feelings, just like that reflect this quality of longing that the gopis have. And what's described as the lotus feet of the spiritual master is the only way to obtain pure devotional service. Remember when Prabhupada was asked by his spiritual master, the moment he met him, go to the West, preach to the English-speaking people, give this message, you know. So he took that in his heart, the instruction from his spiritual master. And somebody told me that he was at the, I think at the house of Advaita Acharya, and there was this little temple there, and Prabhupada was in the back of the temple room crying before he came to the West. You know that? You've heard that before? Mm-hmm. And he was chanting and he was weeping, and the caretaker went there and said, what? And he said, well, my guru asked me to go, and how will I take this on? And so by the instruction of the spiritual master, we become something like those gopis, because we have someone who asked us to do something, and we care about pleasing them or displeasing them or neglecting to try to serve them. And then the similar feelings come to us, that we are following the footsteps of these, you know, deeply longing, sweet, loving devotees of Krishna by the grace of our spiritual master. Sometimes we have guru, but we just have his picture, you know, but if we have the relationship with the spiritual master, give me your instruction, not just your blessings, but how can I serve you? What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? What is my project? What is my mission? What should I become absorbed in? When we have devotional service given by Guru, then we will also, in our intense desire to do that nicely, we will experience these deep loving feelings. Isn't it? Well, glory to Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, that's beautiful. It reminded me of this, the guru, the spiritual master, what love is and what love does. So the spiritual master is not there to just be there for us, and this is what it is. It's what do I do with this instruction, with this opportunity to have a spiritual master. Thank you. Bruce Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, good morning.
Hare Krishna.
I think what I'm about to say is a clear example of how we're supposed to read the first 9 cantos and come to a different place when we approach the 10th canto and are ready for it. And I feel that what I'm about to say will probably demonstrate that I perhaps missed a few things. I'm curious on the selfishness in a way that the gopis are experiencing. When I was reading these pastimes and hearing them from you this morning as well, and over the past few days, I keep thinking to myself, like, it is a mistake. They are acting with pride. And I'm also have the experience of being in Thursday night kirtan when Maharaj is there. And if I were to go and start stalking Maharaj in any kind of a close way, I would be deemed as unwell, unfit for the mind. And because we have this experience in the temple, there was a woman who kept over a couple of year period, kept coming into the Bhakti Center. And she just wanted to get close to Maharaj in a way that was just inappropriate. And, you know, security was enforced and had to get her away. But perhaps she was just feverishly looking for Maharaj's association in a way similar to what the gopis are experiencing. And we thought she was crazy. You know, so again, I did preface this with saying that I missed a few things. If you could just please sort of leave it alone, or, you know, maybe help me with understanding that a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, well, thank you, Bruce. You know, the word that comes up here is ignorance. That it was somewhere in the purport or somewhere in the in the verse itself, that because of ignorance he is left. But when we think of the word ignorance, and it sounds harsh, someone being ignorant, you know, in this word of like mistake, and there's a very big difference between the pride that the gopis experience and the pride that we experience. So we can't assume to know what's going on for another person and where they're coming from. Sure, when people are really attached to the spiritual master or to Krishna or to the pure devotee, it can manifest in ways, but we don't know. We can't make that call. But it reminds me of the ignorance that is said. But also, if we look up the word ignorance, it's actually related to the Sanskrit of jnana. So the know, like gnosis, gnostic knowledge, jnana, ajnana knowledge, and another way of saying ignorant is also innocent, unaware. And so there's a, when we shift the words around, it just changes it just enough to where it doesn't create a judgment for others or for ourselves of I'm ignorant, I made this mistake, or I've done this awful thing, or I must be a rascal, or what's going on. And so it brings up some compassion for the self and compassion for others. When we don't know, when we've been mistaken, when we've been unaware, or just ajnana, not having the knowledge, and then remembering that that also comes from Krishna. So yeah, it's a little bit, it's different. I think that's all I can think of, is that it's different for the gopis. Their pride, because it's connected to Krishna, it must be different than the pride we feel in this world. But I personally like to, I don't like these words of like, you know, mistake. And I use these words, yeah, it's a mistake. They said, you know, he left because of our pride, and it could seem like that, but it seems more innocent than being an awful person or a bad person, or you know, a sinner. Even that word's really heavy with implications of what it means because of the way that it's been used. So that doesn't really address what you were saying, but it's just a thought that I had around it. Yeah. how we perceive it.
Well, thank
Wait,
you.
yeah.
Because we are like, it's so uplifting to see him, or to see these great men, and, even and great women. It is just so uplifting that, I do my best to walk away feeling completely satisfied, and hold on to the next time that I can have such an opportunity.
Yeah, well, but that's and is that okay? Like, to be, hankering for the right things, to hanker for the spiritual master, to hanker for the association of the pure devotee, to hanker for Krishna. But like Krishna, everyone has boundaries, right? Maharaj will have boundaries, like don't accost him, don't get in his space too much. Everyone has boundaries. It's normal, and we have to respect that.
Thank you.
So both are true. We can hanker and then also respect boundaries. Jai.
Lila, Devi, Dasi, what a wonderful class. So many takeaways for me personally. I saw Bhima Prabhu raising his hand. Was that in approval or in denial?
I approve of Lila Devi Dasi's class, and I'm in complete denial, personally. I'd just like
Same
to say
here.
in regards to approaching the spiritual master, almost like in approaching Krishna, that we just have to show up. If we show up, in the Bible, it says, they also serve who stand and wait. So Krishna reveals, the things we need to do. If we're still enough, if we're patient enough, if we've prayed enough, if we've chanted enough, and then if we're silent enough and stop listening to our mind and don't divert ourselves with the things of this world, Krishna reveals the things that he wants you to do through the guru. Through reading of the books, all of a sudden something will ring very true. And if we're introspective enough, we'll see that here's a mission being revealed, whether it be a mission for the day or for a lifetime. Adi Purush was telling me Maharaj was in town. I'm a 3.5-4 hour trip away. And he says, Maharaj is in town. And I go, yeah, but I'm going to drive all the way there. And it's going to be a class. And the Bhakti Center is going to be packed like a sardine can, which is no exaggeration. And it's just, I'd rather just watch a class or something on and get things done. But he says, no, he's in the temple room alone chanting in the morning from like 5 to 6:30 and nobody's there. So I left at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I showed up, and I just there were actually this time a few devotees in there, and I managed to after he was done chanting, I was there at the other end, and I knew him 40 years ago and in the beginning days and stuff. And anyways, he came out and we had a wonderful 2-hour chat, 2-hour walk through New York, getting lost. And I had prayed to Krishna, just if I can just simply, touch his feet or get a word or a smile from him, it'll be worth the trip. So I just wanted to show up, and then Krishna arranged the rest. So I think that if we always understand that for Krishna, we show up in the morning to chant our rounds, we just show up, and then Krishna will take care of the rest. That's all I wanted to say is that's where the real mysticism comes in Krishna consciousness, that Krishna's the doer and he's the giver of our joy. And we're never in separation if we're always heading towards Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hi, Bhishma. Thank you. That's beautiful. Bhima. Sorry, Bhima.
His grace, Bhima, Prabhu.
Bhima. Yeah. Thank you. That's beautiful. It reminds me what you're saying about this introspection and what you shared about originally not wanting to go. There's something really powerful about that introspection of looking inside and seeing what is it that I really want? Why don't I want to show up? And why do I want to show up? Sometimes I want to show up because I just want to be seen and I want to be recognized. And it's coming from a little bit of an impure place. But it's also a very normal, natural, inherent desire to be seen. But at the same time, if it's covered with our own false ego, then it taints the whole thing. So it's really important to be introspective and say, why do I want to be here? What is coming? Because there's a difference between I want to be seen and I want to see. I want to experience. When it's I just want to be here because I want to be in the presence of the spiritual master. Or I want to be in the presence of Krishna. At the same time, so all these things are happening and we just have to see what's true for us and what's alive in us. At the same time, we go to the deities not to see them, but for them to see us, for us to show up in that way. And so it's both. We just have to look in the heart and see what is it really. And it's all okay. It's okay to want to go and be seen if it's in a pure way, and it's okay to want to go and see him or the deities or just see Krishna and Radharani if it's in a pure way. So it's in every moment he'll give us the answer. We can tap in and he'll give us the answer of the thing that needs to be purified. So I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you so much, dear friends. Very, very happy to see everyone.
Thank you, Lila Didi. Thanks, everyone, for your active and sincere participation. Very nice class, Lila, Devi.
Bye. Have a beautiful day, dear friends.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.